Hi class, this is Mrs. Lyons. This video is to give you a brief overview of the classification of matter. So, what we're going to be talking about is when we look at substances and look at their properties, how do we sort them? Okay, so basically there are two main categories. We have pure substances and we have mixtures. All right, pure substances are made up of only one substance. And we can break that down into two subcategories. So we can have elements and compounds. An element is a substance that contains only one type of atom. So if you remember too the card activity that we did, there were two ways that we could represent an element with a particle picture. And those two ways, one of them you would see just one shape. Each atom, each type of atom would be represented by one shape. So for example, if carbon was a triangle and all I have is triangles, this is an element. That would be an example of like carbon, which the symbol for carbon is C. All right, we also have compounds where we might have two atoms connected to each other, but the atoms are identical. So this would also be a pure substance, and it would also be an element. An example of this would be, let's say, hydrogen. And when we write the formula for hydrogen, we represent it as H2. This little 2 means there are two hydrogen atoms, which we represent up here. Each oval shape is a single hydrogen. So that's elements. The second category of pure substances are compounds. And compounds are substances that contain two or more types of atoms bonded, or bonded means connected, to each other. Okay, so when we looked at this in the card sort activity, I'm gonna come down here. We might have seen this like this. You might say, let's say you have carbon dioxide, and we'll get into naming these things later, but and writing formulas. But the formula for carbon dioxide is CO2. Okay, so if we said carbon was one shape, oxygen was another, we might draw this as and this would represent a compound. All right. So basically, a compound just The key is it has to have two different types of atoms. So let's do one more example. Let's say we have magnesium chloride. And a formula for magnesium chloride would be MgCl2. So we have one magnesium, two chlorine atoms in this structure. So again, we would show, let's say we make magnesium be a diamond, and we have chlorine be a square. I don't draw squares very well. So if we saw a picture like this, this would represent the compound magnesium chloride. Okay, something to note when you're talking about pure substances and mixtures, pure substances are always going to have a chemical name, except water. There are three things that you should know. Water is H2O. Whoops. Salt, table salt, is NaCl. And sugar, which we'll talk about later, is C6H12O6. These are things that we'll use, and we'll use their name, their common name, instead of their chemical name. But anyway, if you have pure substances, you're going to see chemical names. The hint here is that elements will only have one word names: carbon, hydrogen, silver, copper, nickel. Whereas compounds would have two words in their names or more: magnesium chloride, carbon dioxide, or two elements in their symbols. Okay, so this is pure substances. The next thing we want to talk about is mixtures. And let's see. So when we start talking about mixtures, again, there are two types, but let's define mixtures first. A mixture is a substance made up of two or more compounds and or elements mixed together. Unlike pure substances, they are not connected to each other. Okay, so if we look at the examples, let's say we have a mixture of, actually we'll look at air. All right, air is a mixture of nitrogen, oops, hold on.